The Killer is David Fincher's latest film, and it is a complete return to form after 2019's Mank, which at the time of its release had me thinking he might be done with the crime thriller genre. But here we are, and as redundant as it may seem for another film like this to be made, I gotta say, I'm happy. I'm happy Fincher is still making these kind of movies because when done right, they honestly never get old. And if there's one guy that does them right, it's this guy. I'm not going to be spoiling anything here because I know a lot of people won't be able to see this film until November 10th when it comes out on Netflix, which is unfortunate because I think this one's worth seeing at the theater. So if you can catch a screening, go for it. This is one of Fincher's least intricate films. It's not looking to make any big statements or do anything groundbreaking, and I think that's to its benefit. It's just simply here to entertain, which is something that I think it does pretty well. It's based on a graphic novel of the same name, and it follows a lonely traversing hitman played brilliantly by Michael Fassbender, who narrates a fair portion. Oh yeah, and he also really loves the Smiths.
I love the Smiths.
Sorry?
I said I love the Smiths.
There is a very clear homage being paid to Melville and his 1967 film Le Samurai, the OG Literally Me film that inspired a whole host of neo-noirs. I don't think The Killer is gonna land with everyone. Similar to Wes Anderson's Asteroid City, I think you'd want to have seen at least a few of Fincher's films before this one to better appreciate what he's doing here. This is a brilliant work of intentional self-parody that makes the most out of the motifs that he's known for. Fincher is very much poking fun at himself with the exaggerated coldness of the main character and the overuse of nihilistic narration, but there's an ever-present sarcasm and an avoidance of over-self-seriousness. He's always had a sense of humor, and to me, it has always been a welcome ingredient in whatever it is he's cooking. The screenplay doesn't really give you much to latch onto emotionally. There are a couple plot points that end up being completely unattended to, and I could see that bothering some people, but I don't really think the goal of this film was any other emotional investment apart from the suspense, which it does really well, and the occasional snickers that it produces in its humor. There's not really a strong effort to catch the audience up to speed with the backstory of the characters. We're sort of just plunged into a reality that is already in motion. The expectation is that you'll be bought in regardless. Really, the reason this all works is because of the guy in the driver's seat. This is a brilliantly shot and edited film, as is everything that David Fincher touches. It's been said a million times, but I'll say it again. He's a technical master. Despite having worked with a few different cinematographers, there's a very consistent vision behind the camera work and cuts throughout all of his work. He's always had a significant hand in the way a film comes together in that sense. If you haven't seen the Nerdwriters video on how Fincher hijacks your eyes, he has a pretty succinct and insightful analysis of the visual language that still translates in The Killer. Although the film is not perfect, with some moments feeling a little contrived or underwritten, there is a level of immersion unique to Fincher's filmmaking that makes up for the hollower areas of the script. Even if the story does drag at certain points, the attention to detail that comes packaged with every one of his films makes for an experience that moves you along consistently. It's the subtle stylization of a gun's muzzle flash, the sleek blocking of a scene, or even the way a camera assistant pulls focus. The little things really add up. There isn't too much action, but when there is, it's truly satisfying. There's one amazingly memorable fight scene that had impeccable choreography. Overall, there is some subtextual commentary baked into the screenplay, reminiscent of Fight Club perhaps, relating to the accessibility we have to goods and services, how technology has shaped the way we participate in the market, the inescapable commercialization of everything, and the not so subtle product placement which you can only be so self-aware of. But all these ideas aren't necessarily the main focus, although I might walk that statement back on a rewatch. Regardless, I think Fincher just wants to make good movies, and flex on us with his technical prowess a little bit. I suppose some might argue that this film is prioritizing style over substance, and if that's how you feel, that's perfectly fine. But for me, the writing is doing just enough to get by so that everything else can thrive. It has such a rhythmic pace and brilliant sound design that overpowers some aspects that I'd usually have more of an issue with. If you take this exact same script and give it to another director, it doesn't work. And admittedly, I am a little bit biased considering he is one of my favorite directors, but it also helps that Michael Fassbender is just so good in this role. He perfectly matches that cold, unempathetic style that is so ubiquitous with Fincher's vision. I love that his character does take himself so seriously, but manages to fumble on occasion despite his overly meticulous routine. The way Fassbender carries himself so robotically, but does the silly things like disguise himself as a garbage man or eat a McDonald's breakfast sandwich without the bread as, and I quote, a quick way to get 10 grams of protein in. There's also a hilariously stupid line that involves a storage locker as well, and his delivery is just perfect. I don't know if he'll be nominated for this performance because he's more so servicing the film rather than the film is servicing him, but it would be pretty cool. Now that I'm putting this review together, I'm starting to realize that I actually love this movie even more than I originally thought. Like, yeah, maybe it could have been a little bit shorter considering how simplistic it is in concept, but for the most part, it fills the runtime pretty well, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm very curious to see what the reception for this is gonna be once it's on Netflix. Who knows, maybe we got ourselves a new Literally Me character that every guy is gonna model their whole personality after. So if you've seen this one, let me know in the comments how you're feeling about it. I always appreciate the discussion and feedback, and since you made it to the end of the video, you might as well leave a like, and you might as well subscribe. You can follow me on other platforms linked in the description, but yeah, thanks for watching.